Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. So with the holes for the roll hoops drilled, cut, tidied and the roll hoops test fitted, it's now on to fitting the windscreen. Now you wouldn't normally need to do this before you send a body off to paint, but I have a hardtop as well. So the idea is get the windscreen on, get that in the right place, put the hardtop on, and then you'll know where the hardtop sits and we can drill the holes through the body for the hardtop fixings. Again, trying to do as much as I can, cutting all the holes possible and prepping the body as much as I can before it goes off to paint. So let's take a look at that. I'm Unfa and this is my build of a Gardner Douglas 427 Mark IV. Okay, so what we're doing is we're going to test fit the windscreen. So we're not going to go through all the fixtures and fittings because we just don't need to do that yet. We only need the windscreen in the right place to fit the hardtop. So first things first was just to get the screen pillars, or sometimes called the stanchion legs, screwed to the side of the windscreen. So there's just some very simple screws to pop on there, and then you can slot it through the body, measure up the holes and then work out where exactly you need to drill out the slots in the bottom of the legs, but we'll get to that in a moment. Just to cover the windscreen itself, I bought this from Chris Glover at Brasscraft. Lovely guy, been making these windscreens for absolutely years, and they come in all sorts of options. There was a clear or a tinted glass type option. I went for the tinted like most people do. You can actually have the screens heated. You probably can't see on the picture here, but there's lots of little fine wires through the screen, and you can see a couple of wires from the base of the screen there that will slot through the top of the body, and they'll need wiring up to a switch so we can turn that on. I actually didn't realise that we could even do this. One of the great positives with this is that you don't need to cut the demist slots in the top of the body. It just makes for the top of the body that a little bit cleaner, and you won't then need to run the heater to fire the heat up underneath the windscreen. You can just use the demist option on the screen itself. So that made it a bit simpler. Didn't realise that. Only noticed that after speaking to Gary from Gosport, who lent me a couple of bits and pieces for the car, and the measurement tool that you'll see in a moment. I call it a tool, it's a piece of wood, but you'll see what I mean. So with that, there's various other options as well. You need the escutcheon plates, so those little stainless steel plates that can go around those legs. There's also the centre stay, which isn't on here at the moment, but that supports the middle of the windscreen. And then Chris from Brasscraft also supplies things like the wind wings, sun visors, the Aston style fuel filler that can go on the back of the car, but I didn't need any of that, and I'll order that from him when I get to that point. Just a bit of masking tape on the pillar supports there, and some lines helps us line up where the legs are going to go, and some around the top there to protect the body when the windscreen goes in. Now at this point we just need to pick up that windscreen again. Definitely a two-person job. Far too difficult to do this on your own, so two of you pick up the windscreen and bring it over, slot that through carefully and drop it down. Now the thing here to do the trick is to get that rubber seal out as you can along the front there. That needs to be pulled forward, but first of all you've got to get the windscreen low enough. So what we were doing here is just basically checking the measurements on each side, and then going ahead and just opening up the slots a little bit on the screen pillar so we could get it just to the right angle, just drop it down as needed. With this handy piece of wood here, this is used just to set the correct distance between the centre return of the rear bulkhead there and the centre point of the windscreen. So on a Mark IV, as this one is, that needs to be 930mm, and on a Mark III it's 860mm. Those are the measurements in the manual at the moment, but do check if you're building a Gardner Douglas. So we've got the windscreen in now and the hardtop just laying straight on the top here. So let's take a little look around what we've ended up with. So after lots of back and forth, lifting the windscreen out, slotting it back in again, adjusting the slots in the bottom of the stanchion legs at the base of the windscreen, and then test bolting again and adjusting the angle. We've got it in where I think it's pretty good. I think we're about 1/2 centimetre out in the measurement on the other side of the windscreen. So the instructions talk about not only centering the centre of the windscreen and getting that, for this, the Mark IV, the 930mm measurement from the trailing edge of the windscreen there into the leading edge of the back of the cockpit there, the rear deck. That's 930mm, and thanks to Gary Carter for his loan of that useful piece of timber, measured perfectly for that. We've been using that. So that's all set properly, and then the instructions talk about making sure the windscreen is properly centered and equal on both sides. So the idea is to take a measurement from the trailing edge of the windscreen up here somewhere, pick your point, to a point on the sort of the open reveal of the back end here. Now I chose the very top edge here, just on the edge here, and for me, taking a measurement from there all the way up to the trailing edge of the windscreen just behind this screw was actually 75 centimetres on this side of the car. Obviously it might be different for yours, but that's what I got. On the other side, 75.5. So the windscreen is ever so slightly tilted forwards on the passenger side at the moment, and we'll have to correct that a little bit. The reason being is that for me, when you fit the hardtop where we're sitting at the moment, there's just a little trailing edge over the front here, a little lip, which is fine. You want it to sit over the top of the windscreen, but on the other side it is ever so slightly further back, just a touch, but I think that we can probably correct either by moving the windscreen back just slightly over there, or looking at the alignment on the back of the hardtop. We think it's pretty straight at the moment, but that's where we are. So let's carry on looking around. So looking at the back here, we've got the rubber seals set out here. These seals will actually go around, this big one will actually go around the tailgate here. As I mentioned in one of my previous videos, I've gone for the hardtop, which has got the glass panel on the back, so for that full kind of Le Mans coupe look. Gardner Douglas do another one which they call the rebated version, where the glass panel actually sits flush in here and all of this is open. And again, I think I mentioned on a previous video, earlier Cobras had the fuel filler actually right in the center here. So of course, if you had a hardtop with a glass panel, and if you wanted access to the boot, you'd need to lift that glass panel up in order to fill the car and to get in the boot. So actually the rebated version is much more practical, because not only is the fuel filler located out here, so that's not a problem anyway, the rebated version means you can open the boot without any problems of access. Obviously you can't open the boot if the glass panel's in the way. But for me, and again it's just personal preference, I prefer the way the glass looks when you've got the glass on the back of the car as opposed to the rebate, but each to your own. The other thing we've got, we'll be doing today, is starting to fit these other bits and pieces to the hardtop. So these brackets, they're going to come around here and they will effectively clip on there. They'll bolt into the top of the hardtop, 3 small holes under there, and there is a clip where that will give some leverage and clip it down onto the side of the windscreen there. So we'll get on with that in a minute. The other thing with the hardtop is we've got this very thin rubber seal which will actually sit underneath the edges of the hardtop there and lift it slightly off the body. It doesn't look like it's very thick actually, it does squash down quite a lot, but you do want the hardtop to sit flush, and that we just laid it underneath for the moment just to put it at the right height, but I mean it's millimetres really once it's squashed down. And then of course the headlining will come underneath the top of the ceiling of the hardtop there, around the edges, and it actually wraps over the edge of that return edge there, and that creates another little bit of a buffer for protecting the bodywork. So we won't be fitting the headliner today, but let's get on with the rest of it. So let's have a look at the rear hatch and how we've got that set up. So we've got the hatch loosely marked up in the right place here, just with some masking tape just holding it in position, lined up at the bottom edge here, and masking tape just holding each side on just so we don't have to support its weight. Little piece at the top, and then both of the hinges here sit on the inside of the brackets. They're already fitted into the hardtop. The L-shaped brackets bolt in there. We've left the slots on the top here to allow a bit of movement of the tailgate itself, and then the next thing to do is to drill the last holes. So holes here in each corner for the tailgate locks that will hold the hatch down. And then actually on the underside here, we're going to have to mark where these L-shaped brackets fit, just on the back here. And we're going to have to drill out some small holes just to go through the first skin. This looks like it's double skinned, and then we're going to have to put some riv nuts in the back of these, so that actually when you take the bolts out, it will be the shorter of the 8 bolts that you get. 2 longer ones in the brackets here and the 2 shorter ones here, and they'll just locate into these riv nuts. And let's just crack on and get those drilled. So after about 3 hours worth of tinkering and taking the hardtop off and back on again and off and back on again and getting it all in the right place, we think we've now got it properly fitted. I'm saying we because it's me and my mate John, who's been helping again. Bless him, come over and spent a good few days with me getting the body ready before we get it off to paint on Monday next week. So what have we done? We have got, first of all, had to figure out how these brackets come in here, and this is actually looks like a solid metal plate inside the fiberglass here. So how we needed to do this, first and foremost, you get 8 bolts with this hardtop pack with the glass panel that will go in here eventually, and the longer of the bolts go through the alloy bracket and bolt into the back of the L-shaped bracket. As I mentioned earlier, these guys go on the inside, and then we've drilled all the way through this metal plate, so straight the way through to the top. We ended up going all the way out to, I think it was 9mm, and by the time we got to 9, then we could drop in an M6 riv nut in the top there, and we get in there just a little bit closer. You can see how some of the gel coat's torn out of the back there, but that riv nut now sits just below the surface. So if this was a gel coat car and you were keeping the finish, you'd cover that over with gel coat, obviously block up the holes so you don't fill them all with gel coat, but you'd fill that over and then you'd never see that. That would be nice and flush. And then the glass will sit on the top, and this will just look like a support without that in there. Those smaller of the bolts then go through the back, and there's a spring washer and a normal washer on the back, so that keeps those nice and tight. The same the other side. And down here we've got the holes cut for the locks. We'll be doing the rest of those when the body comes back from paint, but they will go in and just turn slightly to the side, it looks like, so the bracket is actually upright, and there's a tiny little L-shaped bracket that will fit on the inside of the hardtop reveal that will lift that up, so that will prevent that from coming up. So this is how that comes up at the moment, obviously no glass in it. So that's how that will sit. And then finally just the holes that we cut in the body. The way we chose to do this, there's a reveal on the inside of the hardtop there. If I can get in there and show you. So there we go, just on that inside edge. That edge corner there, the reveal. The way we chose to do this, looking at the pictures, it looks like, taking a best guess, these are about 10 centimetres from the leading edge of the hardtop to the first hole, and at the back the same thing, 10 centimetres from the back. So we measured that with the hardtop off the car, drilled those holes through first, through the reveal, and then we took the hardtop and laid it back on the car. And we had some masking tape underneath where we thought these holes would be, and then simply used a pencil through those edges just to mark the holes on the car. Then taking the hardtop off the car again, drilling those holes from the outside in. One of them pops inside the wheel arch, so it actually comes out just outside the inside of the boot there, just inside the wheel arch, so that fixing will go through and will fit underneath the wheel arch. And the other one comes in just inside the boot, quite difficult to see, but it's a real pig to get in the corner there, but it is right tucked in the corner there. And this is why with this one, the way this works, there are threaded inserts that sit in the front of the car, face down, like a riv nut, but sitting in the car. Another one in the back, but then there's also on the back, there's another threaded insert that fits upwards inside that lip, because it's impossible to get in there and turn the thumb screw like it is at the front. So the idea is you have the 2 threaded inserts upside down and the right way up, back to back, face to face as it were, and then you'll be able to put one of the threaded thumb screws in the back of the car through from the boot, and that will tie the 2 together and then keep this nice and flush. And just in case that wasn't clear, here are those fixings again. The frontmost ones on the left there, you can just about make out the thumb wheel screw on the top. That sits on the top of the body, and then just under that thread you can see the the threaded insert that goes into the body, and then there's the washer and the nut on the back of that. That's the leftmost side of the picture. On the right hand side it's slightly more complicated. The thumb screw goes in from the bottom, so that's inside the boot, and then you've got, working your way up, you've then got the nut there and the threaded insert that fits in over the top of the body. So we're now looking at the middle of the right hand picture with the washer there, and then on the top there, of the top right of the picture, you've got the threaded insert that fits up into the underside return edge of the hardtop with the washer and the nut on the top of that. So hopefully that's clear. So I think that's about it. Next thing to do with this is take it all back, take the hardtop off, take the windscreen off, and then we'll be in a position to load it all up to the car, load it all up to the van on Monday. And for those of you that are wondering, this isn't a crack in the windscreen. We've got a couple of wires here. Chris from Brasscraft has hooked us up with a heated windscreen, so there'll actually be no need to cut the slots here for the heater demist escutcheons. I'm not going to bother with those. We'll just have the holes filled and they won't be needed. So that's that. So it's late on Saturday night. We've been at it since 10 o'clock this morning. We've had a go at putting the windscreen in and getting that lined up again, and then bringing the hardtop onto the car, lining it up, taking off, lining it up. We've now got that to a point where we're comfortable. We've drilled the 4 holes on both sides of the car for the threaded inserts that the hardtop thumb screws go into. So we've got those in place. Just taken the windscreen back out and the hardtop off. We've taken the hatch back out again, so we're starting to get the car stripped down to the point where it can go off to paint on Monday. So only a couple of days now. Tomorrow I'll be back in here again, sorting out the final little bits, taking off the bonnet catches and levers there, and having a go at fitting the heater. That's the last thing that needs a hole in the body. Where the heater comes through into the engine bay, there's 2 holes there required. So hopefully then, fingers crossed, that's everything that needs a hole in the car, and when the body goes off to paint, when it comes back, but no more drilling to do. You know, there might be 1 or 2 bits and pieces, but hopefully that's it. So awesome, getting excited now, and I'm going to be really excited to see what it looks like when it comes back from the painters. So there we go. So that's it for another video. Next time we're going to be taking the body, loading it up, taking it off to be painted. Taking real care as we load it into the back of the truck, and then with the space we're going to be able to get on with fitting the engine when that arrives, and everything else mechanical to the chassis. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.